And boom, we are finally fucking on. Awesome. Okay, so peeps, we are locking down the truth with Marci Lock today on Influential TV with my amazing guest, who I'll share a little bit about. We've had a few technical difficulties, so if you guys are just getting on, or we're had to shift some links, and so we're actually just starting. But if you've missed any, obviously you can catch the replay too. So if you've never joined us for Marci Lock TV before, you're in for a treat. The whole idea is that I only bring on the most epic, amazing, fantastical people in the world that are influential, that are making a huge, massive difference and stepping up into the belief system, which I believe and choose to create and share, which is that you get to have a phenomenal life in every aspect. Not this this bullshit of one aspect of life is working and we sacrifice in others, but that I believe a true badass has every single aspect of their life thriving. So those are the people that I choose to bring on that are living epic, awesome lives and have a great message to share and can teach you guys some golden nuggets of truth to be able to continue forward in your journey, your perfect growth process, to have a fantastic life in every area. So with me today is Robert Vitelli, and he is, he's done so much. If you've looked him up, if you've checked out what he's done stuff with Brian Tracy to Les Brown, to worked with like some of the most top influential people in the world, from Zig Ziglar to Tony Robbins. He's known as the Guru Whisperer. That's badass, right? But so if you are obviously wanting to join us and catch any of these, the past shows or any of this future one, if because we're kind of off on time, I'll just share with you right now that you can go to get the Marci Lock app at marcilockapp.com or on iTunes or Google Play, and also go to MindBody90 to get the free video series. So Robert, I'm going to jump in just because we're a little bit off on time here and let you share the awesomeness of who you are. I know I could probably go off on all the things that you do as the business strategist and all the things that you're known for. But I would love to start off the conversation with you letting us know who you really are. Instead of coming for me, who are you, Robert?
I'm just a guy. I'm just a guy.
Whatever. I call bullshit. I like that word. It comes out a lot because I tend to call people on their bullshit. You are way more than just a guy, but you're very humble and awesome.
Wow. Who am I and or what do I do? I sum it up pretty quickly is that, I believe that my purpose is to bring out the champion in you, period. And that's what I'm amazing at. And it's what I love doing. And when I'm doing it, I'm absolutely turned on, excited, passionate. And when I'm not nearly as happy. So
that just means when you're in alignment, you feel good. When you're rocking out your passion and purpose, you feel good.
Exactly right. And I developed a lot of tools that really help people break through everything from personal to financial and business limitations to really bring out that champion inside of them so that people can really champion their clients, that they can be the champion that they were meant to be, and they can fulfill their purpose, their mission, and touch hopefully millions of lives with their message. And being able to do that as fast and as elegant as possible, and really unleashing that champion inside them.
So you cut down the process and the journey that most people would have to go through to get to that space. And what I actually love that I really resonate with that you said is because I feel like God brings me the most epic, amazing people that have huge messages and huge things to serve the world with. And they might, most of the time, I coach the coaches like you, so they're already doing it to a degree, but unblocking them like releases the fact that they help millions more than they were, and I could have never done that on my own. And when I interacted with you, that's kind of the same experience that I got from you, is that you have such an ability to help people align and strategize to take their message further. And as the time I got to spend with you in Vegas at the event and getting to know you a little bit, I was just floored and blown away by your encompassing knowledge in not only like business and strategies, but personal growth development and processes that you've done, and like you've totally gone on your own journey. So kind of to give people an idea, because it's really easy to jump on and be like, oh, you're this dude who's awesome and amazing, and there's all this credibility, obviously, like you've definitely produced amazing things. But for the person that might be wanting to be inspired to go on that journey, they're in a totally different place. And sometimes it's just like, it's like why I share my fatty picture, right? People are always like, oh my gosh, that was you? Yeah, 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 that was me, right? And so I would love to know, and I think share with people, is like, where did you start from? What has that journey or that story been? Like, what was your shit, basically, Robert? Tell us what your shit was and how
Sure.
you got to become it.
I think like a lot of people, have, a similar background, probably with about 90% of at least our country, and I know a lot of other countries. I come out of, a single parent home with an alcoholic parent.
Mm.
And, pretty much through my teenage years, I, kind of took on that codependent role of taking care of my mom. I became the adult. I became the caretaker, so to speak. And had a real short-lived emotional childhood, and looked for that father figure, that I've always wanted, in my life. And I was lucky enough to just start getting into the motivational field, to look for mentors and role models, and see people who had it all, financial as well as relationships, as well as health, as well as personal fulfillment and happiness and self-esteem and self-love. And I just started looking for mentors, and I came across, some incredible people on a spiritual path, like Marianne Williamson,
Mm.
Louise Hay,
Love
Deepak
her
Chopra,
too.
teachings of the ascended masters on a spiritual level that I love, from Saint Germain and all the ascended master teachings, to the motivational speakers like Jim Rohn and Brian Tracy and Zig Ziglar and Tony Robbins and so many others, that it kind of filled that void in my life, and really looking for that leadership and that, those role models, spiritually as well as emotionally, financially. And started, looking, and I went to college. I barely got through high school. I definitely wasn't a school book kind of a person, and I knew I wasn't going to go to a, traditional college, so I went to the School of Hard Knocks instead.
Mm.
And in my early 20s, I said, I really need to open up my own business. One thing I saw that was being really promoted by everybody was, opening up and having your own, business. And I had a little bit of, experience just doing self-education at this point. And
Yeah.
I opened up my first marketing company, actually working in the environmental products field, which was, really hot back in the 90s. And I started making some decent money at first, and had a nice launch. Right up until about the time when my own limiting patterns started to cave myself in, started limiting myself, and
Mm.
what I thought was going to be this dream of a career of, traveling around the world, driving beautiful cars, and having the marriage of my dreams, and a
Mm.
balanced lifestyle, and being fulfilled. It turned out to be 75, 80-hour weeks. My stress level was through the roof. My health definitely started to suffer,
Yeah.
and I was miserable, and continued to just do self-sabotaging things. And in a pretty short period of time, I wound up claiming bankruptcy, and just falling on my face completely. I was angry at myself. I was frustrated. Um, Sad, angry, had the victim stuff kick in on myself, to just pure, ashamed. I was really embarrassed. And,
Mm-hmm.
it was kind of the dark night of my soul, as I call it. And, I really just dug in, started doing some more, inner work and introspection, and, started looking for a job. I needed some type of have an income. My car was repossessed. Had to downsize everything. Everything was pretty much gone. I had good money coming in, and a ton of money going out. And after they repossessed my cars, just started doing a job search. And
Yeah.
you had a really strong sales and marketing background, so I was looking at different kind of sales and marketing positions. And then I saw an ad, actually, working for Tony Robbins and Jim Rohn and Brian Tracy and Zig Ziglar, promoting, and marketing their companies, as well as getting personally coached by them. And I went through a series of interviews down in Orange County, California, where they were being held. And to make a long story short, I got hired, and it became the beginning of just an incredible mentorship of these amazing, amazing teachers and influences in my life. And I learned, just more in such a short period of time than I could have ever dreamed. And I'm always reading and listening to stuff, and a couple of hours of, the programming our old noggin every day anyway. And one of the, major distinctions that I got working with these men, that they really, kind of taught two major, I say three major lessons, but the first two was, number one, always to surround ourselves by people that were, already achieving the results that we always wanted, and surround ourselves with these people. And, next was to always give enormous value to people before ever, expecting to receive any. Just give enormous value without expectation of return. And, the third, which was probably the most profound, was to be able to cooperatively market with other people. And they did something called joint ventures and cooperative marketing, as opposed to having this competitive type of competition spirit, where they were really harmoniously promoting other business owners and other speakers and success coaches and other types of businesses, even brick and mortar businesses, in conjunction for marketing and supporting themselves. And I was always fascinated by, this cooperative marketing model. So started to incorporate that into a lot of the lessons and things that I had learned, and it created my belief systems and, a lot of my opinions, about business today. And the bottom line is, I believe that one person can make a difference, that one person can touch millions of people's lives. I believe that, one person and one small group or community, especially of entrepreneurs, can affect, amazing positive social change and economic change. And I believe that through cooperative and marketing, cooperative teamwork, through various types of businesses, that accelerated income as well as results can just massively happen very, very quickly. And that we can't, rely on nonprofits and corporations to do it. It's going to be up to us, the entrepreneurs around the planet, to make these, substantial changes happen.
So did you really got into, it sounds like, to wanting to be an entrepreneur. I had to move inside, by the way, because I'm at the vacation rental that I own, and there was children outside super loud that it kept switching. So I'm like, oh, I'm just venturing, so lighting's a little bad, but deal with it. What I wanted to ask you is, like, you getting into business and you getting into, being motivated to be an entrepreneur, was that because you felt the stress and the pressure of, having to help your mom or, do those kind of things? Is that what led you into, like, what really took you from that painful place of how do I get out of this hole? What was that moment or that thing for you that made you stop just going through the motions and being in that pain to looking for solutions, I guess?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that we all look for vices. I think we all have vices, and I just, was introduced. I think one of the first series of books that was ever given to me when I was in my teenage years was a 5-book series called The Life and Teachings of the Masters of the Far East. And it was probably still some of my favorite, lessons on what I call being the ultimate you, or being our, higher self, or being our master self, and really expressing our divinity on the planet. And I think that, the talents that we naturally have, and I believe that we pick our parents, to kind of drop into this life based on the lessons that we need, the ultimate non-victim, mentality, is, just something that I've always had that void, and I believe I chose that void. Before picking the parents, I decided to, drop into that situation and mold, kind of our young character to have these natural desires to just be more, than what I was brought up with. Be able to, have a family that I never had, to have the financial success, that I didn't have growing up, or the support systems. So I think that lack really drove me to just find something better and to really, research, what is working, what is it that people are doing to create this balanced, powerful, amazing, magnificent life. And I found, that, the spiritual component of business is becoming, I think, more and more, popular, or more people are talking about it where they have never talked about it before up into recent years. And, one of the major beliefs that I believe that a golden age of prosperity is coming in the very near future for the planet. And it's going to be a technological golden age, and there's a lot of evidence to prove this, contrary to the Terminator Judgment Day mentality that's promoted in the media, that I think is a bunch of bullshit. That there is some huge, huge changes happening for an awakening and a golden age of prosperity on the planet, that I believe that a lot of entrepreneurs are going to be at the forefront and the light bearers for.
I love that. So that's amazing. So okay, so you've obviously worked with gurus, and you've become the guru that coaches and trains and leads gurus. So when you said, what is working, like that was your question you asked yourself to now start to find solutions and test different things. Well, I'm sure everybody on is like, well, okay, you're genius, you're the guru whisperer. Like, what is working? What does work? What are some of the things that were the key concepts for you that you felt like catapulted your business, are the things that really do make a massive change for people to share their message a little bit bigger?
Yeah, I have a process that I take people through, because I do a lot of positioning and branding when we're working to, basically make somebody a celebrity in their field and in their niche, whether they're a doctor or they're a coach or speaker or author or dentist, whatever they may be. And it's really taking somebody's background, especially from childhood, where, our biggest, what I call emotional wound or emotional scar, is actually the biggest gift that we have to share with the planet. Mm-hmm. So, when we take, our story, like mine, using myself as an example, not having, that father figure, the family unit that I wanted, looking for, leadership, looking for that type of guidance, all of a sudden leadership became, my gift to start to research and find out about, and driven to research leadership and find out, more about leadership than I ever was taught. And then it's my gift, to the planet, the things that I find and understand and learn, and the distinctions that I learn, to share it with people. So I believe that our biggest emotional scars, like being brought up, with alcoholism. Alcoholism is, rampant in our country, let alone the planet. I think it's 8 out of 10 families either have direct alcoholism or some type of family member, grandparent, or caretaker that passes it down a generation. And even though we might not have had alcohol in the family, sometimes there's something called para-alcoholism, where the unconscious behavior patterns, emotional and mental blocks, actually get passed on even without alcohol.
Really?
So it gets really, what I call tricky and insidious and hidden. But those limitations, again, can be our gifts, can be our blessings. Because for me, I became the caretaker, and that's typical of the hero. The hero role, where I go in and I'm going, dun, 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 I'm going to save somebody, right? Yeah. Well, it can be really unhealthy and very disrespectful in one light, and then in another light, it can be, my gift, where I love bringing out the hero within you. Yeah. And naturally, it became, that wound became my gift and my talent to the planet, to where if I can unleash that champion and that ultimate you, I call, inside of you, financially, with business strategies, that are documented and proven, or whether it be personal breakthroughs that might be holding you back, that gift that you have, can typically be translated into that champion self, so that you can champion your clients and your customers.
So is your process more, you dig into people releasing the bullshit, really? You're like me, and then it's like, let's break through all the root shit beliefs and how to transition that. Is that what you're saying? Like, that's a big part of you, helping them find their genius or find their role to do that. I know you can't even see me, but so that they can become the champion. Otherwise, they're blocked to even let that out.
Well, it's interesting because I work, primarily with 6 and 7 figure business owners is about 99% of my clientele. And most of them already have, 6 figure, 7 figure businesses and have not figured this stuff out sometimes.
Yeah,
So
that's
regardless of somebody
great.
just starting a business or they're already making multiple 6 figures or 7 figures, I find that it doesn't matter because business strategy is business strategy.
Mhm.
And, I go over business strategy with my clients and how to make more money faster and how to leverage and all these other great technical things, but that's nothing new. I mean, you could buy a book on marketing strategies and pick up, 100 marketing strategies that every successful business owner is using. So I don't think there's anything new under the sun there. But the limiting patterns, whether somebody's brand new in business or they're making multiple 6 or 7 figures, are still there in somebody's, unconscious part of their mind or their consciousness. And if they haven't truly tapped into what I call that champion within,
Mhm.
then they're not realizing their full potential financially, first of all, let alone fulfillment. I'll give you an example. How about I give you a concrete example?
Yes.
I was working, talking about this cooperative marketing, and I started doing some networking with people here locally in Las Vegas, where I live. And a chiropractor that I know is doing a new business model where he's combining, chiropractic work with, male hormone therapy with nutrition. He's doing weight loss for men and women. So he's kind of doing a new kind of a business model, combining different kind of practices all under one roof.
Mhm.
It's very high end, very beautiful facility, very, very ethical, solid man, incredible values and integrity, loves to over deliver for his clients, has just impeccable ethics. And these are the people that I work with and love to work with. It's my ideal client. And when we were talking, because we started brainstorming about his business, he wants to expand it to a major 7 figure, multiple facility, not only nationally, but globally. He wants to take this franchise idea globally. We started talking to him, and I was looking at all of his marketing materials, and as I was talking to him, there was not a congruency with what he was really passionate about and this great business idea. So we started talking about his background and where he was coming from. He really has a passion for sustainable living, and he's got a passion for everything from solar energy to growing your own food and your fruits and vegetables and having a sustainable lifestyle. And so I really saw where his heart was at, and we started looking at who his ideal client was. And I said, well, this is, you kind of combine the two. I said, what about having something like called sustainable healthcare, where now you're starting to get into preventative health maintenance. It wasn't just about what I call the marketing of commercial stuff,
Mhm.
but it was about sustainable preventative health care, and that you were using health as a holistic type of a model, from nutrition to weight loss, into body chemistry and hormones and everything combined. And you combined it with your passion, and now he's got this incredible fire in his belly that he's never had before, because he's really passionate about sustainable living. Now he's got sustainable healthcare that he can actually create a franchise and a business model from. And it gets back into some of his childhood issues about lack, and don't want to break confidentiality with the client, but it directly relates to what happened to him as a child that created his passion today.
Wow. Well, and when you said it's so I totally resonate in so much what you do. I know you take we kind of work in a lot of the same elements in that breaking through the bullshit to find yourself and propel. And like I believe even with the body and all sorts of things, if you're not fully aligned, you're definitely not operating out of your power. But what I love that you said is it kind of reflects to the body doesn't actually know the difference between past, present, or future, and we're still living subconsciously. So even though consciously we say we want certain things and people are able to work through things and maybe even do really well in business, they're subconsciously still acting out of the same belief systems, the same patterns, whatnot. And so it doesn't, until you tap into that, you're literally like utilizing less than 10% of your power. As I'm listening to you, I'm like, well, yeah, that's exactly what you're doing, is you're helping them break through the internal stuff that they're not even aware of, to align more fully to bust out the capacity and power that's really in there with them.
Absolutely. And I believe, and I've seen this time and time again. I don't care, how successful a man or a woman is. They're making whatever, 6, 7 figures. What I typically find is that for them to really be a champion to their clients, to really, be that champion for all their patients or whatever it may be, regardless of their field, it takes complete alignment with their purpose with, what they're meant to do here on the planet to touch and affect hundreds, thousands, and sometimes millions of people's lives because they're aligned with championing and truly giving enormous impact to their, clients and customers. And that comes to a congruency of, their purpose and all of their resources internally as well as external resources. So
Okay.
absolutely right.
Yeah, awesome. So what would you say are some of these, like that's the process that you take them through. What would you say are some of the nuggets or the truths or the teachings that help people align to that? Or that were even big for you and taking you out of your recognizing where some of your bullshit was that you got to align with, because you've done so much inner work, which is where a lot of people I feel like are missing the gap. Is it's like the outside, and this is where I always, when having conversations, you're talking about the same thing where you can hear what they're doing consciously doesn't actually match what's going on subconsciously, so hence there's gaps and disconnects, so they can't fully create, and it doesn't become easy. Instead of like thriving easily, it's like there's a block to doing that. And so what I'm really wanting to know is, what were some of the things that helped you find that realignment for you?
Good question.
I know, I'm full of good questions. Even though I'm in the dark today, like seriously, this is just awesomeness with the show, right?
I sum it up. I think the biggest core teachings that I found, and like you, as you've probably found, and I've been, between thousands of hours of workshops and reading and seminars and mentoring with people that have influenced myself, you included, I found that identity seems to be, one of the key factors in all the personal growth work. To summarize thousands and thousands of hours of workshops and coaching and counseling and therapeutic work and introspection, there's this model of, what we call be, do, have. We define, what we want to have in life emotionally or financially. We kind of define the strategies and the actions and the things that we need to do. And a lot of the incongruency comes down to who we believe that we are, at a core identity level. And
Yeah.
I think that, regardless of what mentor, I know it's a lot of your work, that you do amazing work around this, one subject and this one distinction, has been really the powerful one to look into, regardless of somebody's, who they're choosing as a teacher or mentor, a course. I would direct people to find things that help somebody re-identify themselves and who they believe and think they are. And this identity, through a reaffirmation, or what I call an awakening, because I don't believe it's changing our identity at all. I believe it's, releasing and unleashing our true self from the limitation.
Yeah, almost like remembering the core self.
Absolutely, that's exactly what it is. To remembering who our core self is, or our true self, and through that, letting go of the false opinions or thoughts, and through that, affirming who we really are. It's not convincing ourselves who we are, but it is that remembering of who we are, and that identity then has natural behaviors. It has natural actions and natural things that will follow as far as results and havingnesses. And results that will follow, these actions that will spring naturally from a, identity shift and realizing who we really are.
Mm-hmm. So I love this, because as I'm sitting here listening, even though we had several conversations and I've gotten to know you to a degree, Robert. I'm sure there's a ton that I don't know, obviously, but it's like, as we're talking now, I'm like, holy shit, we do a ton of the same. The same stuff in a way, but I know you specialize in that really aligning on the business strategies and all that, which is so fantastical. And I love that you talk about like you, and I'm almost wondering what your take is on this. Like, you talk about creating so much value, and I used to in the past be like, it's about value exchange, value exchange, value exchange, and like I believe fully in under promise, over deliver, and there's a huge value exchange. But there's also that side where it's like you get to know of your value and know of your worth, so that it is always a value exchange versus a settle or a sacrifice, because I believe that's a shitty ass belief system to live in, that there is no such thing as settle or sacrifice. It's thriving and sharing your genius, and we all have things to share. So kind of give me your take on like how you see that with like all the value that you give. How do you give value and also teach people to remember that truth, to remember the core, because that's really what it is. When I believe when you remember that core thing that you're talking about, you know you're so fully worthy of abundance in every aspect. There is never even an idea of settle, because you know you're worthy of having it all, and it just gets to be like even worthy of attracting amazing people and sharing our genius together and just all these things. So I don't know, fill me in on some of your thoughts around that.
Good question. For me, I'll just take myself personally, get personal on it. You know, I adopted a lot of very critical thoughts of myself. You know, growing up, just inheriting, quote unquote, our caretakers' patterns unconsciously. We inherit them. So, being very critical of myself was not a super healthy thing for me to, engage in. I'm constantly watching. I think our scars are never something that is just like poof, magically they're healed and they're gone. No, we work with them our entire life and overcome them through looking at the truth, not denying, our feelings of the truth. So I would say that, not be, I guess I use the word critical, trying to rephrase your question a little bit, but for me, getting over or looking at that criticalness, of myself and saying, yes, I am worthy and I am deserving of more, was a growth process, as I was building my self-esteem. As I continue to build it, it's going to be a lifelong process. I don't think it's a straight line. It's an ebb and flow based on what things are going to be re-stimulated, in our unconscious that we're growing through. But it has to do with a balance. There's a time for charity. There's a time for unconditional giving, and there is a time for that in my life. And I love working with specific charities. And then there's a time when it's not about charity. It's about business. I'm here delivering enormous value to you, and if I'm communicating it enough and well enough, you're going to get how valuable this is, and then we're going to have some type of exchange. And that exchange is typically for either goods or services. And if I get, and I've decided arbitrarily that this service is worth whatever, $150,000, I don't have a problem getting $150,000 from my client for that service, because I know I'm worth it. And that's a decision that I've made internally. And I do expect an exchange when something is given, especially in a business situation when it's not charity. So there's time and place for both, and I think we come to a place in our own self-esteem, and it's sometimes just an arbitrary decision that, looking at the marketplace, looking what I've delivered, what I can deliver in value, what type of results do my clients receive, what is that tangibly worth, and then making that decision to receive that. And I think so much of it comes down to, if you look at what the word decision means, the root derivation of the word decision means to cut off.
Is what? To the game?
Mm-hmm. Right? So it's powerful to make a decision on what we're worth and what we're worth in the marketplace and what kind of results we can produce for our clients.
So I know you work with, like I do, like extremely high-end coaches and different people. I have aspects that go from someone that's doing it at home and learning certain things. Is this something that you can teach those people in that realm versus also in the realm of, just your high-end people that maybe they've got business made, but they're wanting to realign more and do a fuller capacity? Because I know you do now live events, and you've got, the stuff you teach is so badass. Like, I've seen it happen where you were in a group of us with even at, like, high-end amazing people, and yet just listening to a couple sentences of a high-end producer, how you gave them some ideas and just aligned like what was more strategic for them and what actually was more into their integrated self. And it was so cool. And I'm like, wow, you do have this genius of this guru whisperer. So you're definitely badass. What I'm wondering is, for a lot of those people that are still on that journey, is there things that you teach? Is that what your live events are now? Like, give me an idea for those people that might be watching. They go, well, I'm not a $150,000 client market. Is that all you work with, or do you have different aspects?
You know what? I only work with six-figure business owners right now. I think, as far as people that are just getting involved, just starting their business, they're just, looking at some of these, issues or some of these components, to begin with, I, would highly suggest they work, with great personal growth coaches like yourself is typically what I'll do. I did actually have such an overwhelming response. I had to narrow because I really guarantee the results when I work with somebody. I always, whether it be a personal or 100% money back guarantee. So I want to be able to have a small enough group of people where I can guarantee that you're going to get the result I promise you, period. There's no excuse not to. So if I'm committed to my client and working with people, I found that I had to narrow down the people that I was communicating to and working with in a small group fashion at a seminar or at an event. My events are only 50 to 100 people typically at most, so that we all get to interact together. And a large part of my events is, I guarantee that my clients are going to get business relationships out of them to market their business to thousands of people nationwide and globally. So I always suggest that if they're getting involved with this work for the first time, getting a chance to work with you is obviously my clients that I have coming to me, or referring people to me, I should say, that are just getting started. You're one of my go-to gals that they're going to be coached by. So I highly recommend, if they're just starting the journey, whether it be with their body or their mindset or their business, it's your specialty. Definitely.
There's definitely some different aspects from high end to low end. But so in your seminar that you have coming up, because I know you have a live event coming up, and it's and just so that actually right now is a good time. I'll tell people how they can actually interact with you and be able to follow you, because that's the whole point and purpose, is that they can learn even more from your nuggets and your truths, and if they're in this position to realign even more connected. But it's accelerationlive.com. That's the best place for people to follow you, to interact with you, Robert.
Yeah, accelerationlive.com is an event that we've got coming up live that's going to be, right now we're looking at the third week of January. We'll have the information on the website. That's a live event. Now that event is only for 6- and 7-figure business owners. Awesome. Acceleration Live. If somebody is not to that level yet and they're just getting started, I have a number of free courses and resources that I've put together on my website that would be great for them to get some free information and some free, really cool lessons. I got a 5-video course, a couple webinars. I've got a new 3-hour course I'm going to be putting up there called the Acceleration Business Formula, which will be 3 to 4 hours long of content in 7 different videos. They go to robertvitelli.com. They can get those free courses and get a lot of great content absolutely free if they're not quite to the 6- or 7-figure business level yet at the accelerationlive.com site for my upcoming event.
Awesome, because there's people obviously that download these TV shows for years to come. Have people all the time that message me and say, oh, I just saw the TV show with such and such. So I'm sure people can be learning from you, even if they're on their growth process, or if they're like you and I that deal with the high-end coaches that are already kicking ass, but they want to take it to another level, then that's more what this event would entail.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll have, keep on increasing the free courses that we have available on my website at robertvitelli.com, robertvitelli.com, and they can get the free courses right now that are available if they're not quite to that 6- or 7-figure level business yet.
Okay, so Robert, I want to know what was for someone who is kind of still on the outside and maybe in that hole, what would be the thing that you tell them? Because you're in the space, we kind of started this off in the beginning where you've done awesome, you're extremely successful, you're living like a fantastical life. Like going back to more of the roots of what makes it relevant that you're here now, what would be the number one thing you would tell somebody who is kind of on the edge of that? And it might even be the person who's even on the edge of in their 6- 7-figure income earner, most likely, I'm guessing, okay, because this is my experience with all those people that I work with that are very high end, they're famous, they're kicking ass in business, but there's aspects of their life that are totally suffering. Whether it be they're saying, oh, life is good or great, and so they kind of settle to, the body can be not quite in alignment, or, relationships are a settle, or they don't know how to, and this is because of what you do and what I do both, which is realign and get through that root bullshit. So say that they're in that position, or they're in the same position in a way where they're going through the motions of life, and that's also a choice to up level and change. What was the thing for you that made you step out of the hole, or what would you tell them?
That was a long question.
I know. My mind, you know me, it's like, it's like, that's why I have 3 assistants, and I just go, okay, God, and they go, okay, you take those 10 things, I'll take these, you take that, because Marci's just going, so.
So what was your question again?
Right? You want me to narrow that down a little bit?
Please.
Okay, so what would you tell someone who's on the verge of wanting to change?
Do it. Someone who's on the verge of wanting to
Or
change.
if they're in the hole, like what is that thing that makes them step out of that hole? Whether it be someone going through the motions or the 6-7 figure income earner that you work with. What draws them to working with you? Like what's that pain to pleasure? Because you know the decision, you only create a decision when you either see more pain in what you're experiencing, more pleasure in creating change.
Mm-hmm.
So what's that decision what's the thing that makes you see it out of more pain and more pleasure and decide to change? What made you talked about what made you step out of the hole?
I think you answered it right there. Your pain and your uncomfortability and your lack of fulfillment in a certain area of life gets to the point to where you finally accept the truth. You know, how many of us have been in denial about any area of our life to one degree or another? I know I have, that's for sure. And it's only through the grace of God, personal growth work, and some teachers that kicked me in the head that I woke up to admit the truth about a number of different issues in my life, as I continue to do and work on still to this day weekly. I would say have the courage. The really what it comes down to, for the longest time working in the personal growth field, I was working to, empower myself. I don't want to be empowered. Oh my God, I wanted to be powerful. I wanted to feel good. And what I realized is, so much of that energy is megalomaniac. There's a very false, inauthentic. There's nothing wrong with tapping into our personal power and into our strengths, into our aggression. But for myself, I was using that to not really feel my feelings. We all feel sad. Hey, we all feel lonely sometimes. We all feel the same feelings at different times of the day or different times of the week, to one degree or another. So for me, the turning point was to accept the truth. Is to accept the truth of where I was at that moment, to accept and look at the truth and let go of the denial. It got, that uncomfortable that I had to look at what the truth was. And through an acceptance of the truth is when I could start working on it. Is when I started working on different areas, as I continue to do today, that are not optimal, and doing it without condemning myself, without over criticizing myself, without having those internal, not good enough reaction patterns and things. So I think you answered it. Is it gets uncomfortable enough to where we finally accept the truth. And for me, it was not trying to change my feelings. We talk about personal growth. It was not trying to change how I felt, but it was just waking up and saying, how do I feel? What's going on right now? What am I feeling right now as I'm talking to Marci? As I'm talking to, the group watching us now, and being in touch with what was true. And from looking and accepting and acknowledging what is true, a natural progression seems to happen from there.
Love it. Okay, that's the shit that I wanted. I wanted, like, what's the real authentic, the nuggets to creating change? Because what you just tapped onto, Robert, it was huge for me in my own life. I told you how just having this more gifts from God, genius of the mindset and processing, how we can be like, go through so much growth. It's like process. That almost is still keeping us in this bullshit game of perfectionism, of just like, oh, okay, what's going on? Okay, well, what do I want? And move, instead of being in alignment with, I am so worthy of everything, that I'm worthy of even being aware of how I feel and being tapped into mind, body, heart, spirit, and feeling the feeling. But then it's your choice really to say, do I want to stay in this bullshit or do I want to do something different? Do I want to, now what would that look like? What do I want to believe and perceive? And what are the actions to now just take this as awesome feedback and it being my perfect growth process and experience, and now how do I move towards what I want? And you mentioned earlier, do have. Be the person that you want to be by doing the things that person does so you have the results, versus what society does, which is have be, oh, if I can only have that, then I'd be the person, then I'd do those things and I'd, be a happy person and whatnot. So I love that you just gave a huge nugget of truth just by saying, when we accept when we take the opportunity to just say, what is in front of me right now is perfect experience for me. There's no judgment around it. It's no good, bad, wrong, right, this or that. It's just, it is. What am I feeling? And that be okay. And then moving through that. So do you have, what's the process that you go through? Because I always teach 5 steps to overcome sabotage, to like literally walk people through the process of consciously with, or what we're acting out subconsciously to be a conscious creator in the moment to get what you want. What do you go through to when shit shows up for you, or it's awareness and you feel the feeling you're feeling, and how do you realign back to feeling good? Like, is there a certain process you go through?
Yeah, I got to tell people, out of hundreds and hundreds of teachers out there and mentors that are teaching personal empowerment, I don't think there's anybody that I've seen as raw or as authentic as you, teaching exactly what we're talking about here in the area of personal growth and emotional acceptance and empowerment.
Have you been watching my TV shows where I cry or my videos?
Well, you're one of the few people who have the courage to be that honest and authentic and vulnerable to the public and to your clients. And I think the evolution that we're seeing in the personal growth field versus personal power is bullshit. Is that it's not true, and that we all feel the same feelings. We all have the same types of considerations and limitations to one degree or another. We all have our childhood stories. As you heard mine, I know yours, and it created who we are today. And you're one of the few teachers that I've seen that authentically, supports people through an empowerment and being all you can be type of process, and does it with courage as well as vulnerability, without hype or bullshit.
Well, thanks, Robert. That just became like the Marci promo right there.
Right? It's true. And to answer your question, for me, I think I described it a little bit earlier. A lot of my work personally, my emotional work, not the intellectual work, came when I started looking at my emotional scars from being brought up in an alcoholic home. I think it's scars that 90% of the people watching the show could probably relate to. And for me, it created a lot of codependent behaviors of trying to overhelp people when I shouldn't, and then at the same time denying my own personal power, denying my own value, with critical thoughts or critical words that I was brought up with, as an attempt to control me, and my childhood behaviors, like a lot of unconscious parents do, and then to do just the opposite to myself. We call it championing the inner child. In emotional growth work, a lot of this work John Bradshaw did around championing your inner child emotionally is being able to be your own champion and to talk to ourselves and treat ourselves the way we always wish we were treated. The way we want a husband or a wife or a mom or a dad to treat us is how we, of course, ideally should be talking and treating ourselves. So through when I'm having a rough day, or I've got a scar from my past being restimulated, I'm feeling sad and I'm feeling emotional or feeling less than empowered, my first step is always just to feel it and be okay without trying to change the feeling, without trying to make myself feel good. just feeling it completely. And the more that I can feel it completely and treat myself with compassion, I find to be the first step of just, having everything go better, having, myself treat myself. And of course, that's how, I've been able to treat more other people, because of how we treat ourselves is how we treat others in many ways. So I think that's the first thing, is self-compassion, without wallowing in it for days or weeks on end. But however long we need to feel it and be okay with it, and have the courage to feel not a negative emotion, but I call it feeling an uncomfortable emotion, and having the courage to really feel it.
I love that. And it almost reminds me of one of the things I remind myself of sometimes is, are you more committed to self-appreciating and self-love, really, what it comes down to, than self-evaluation? Because we could, and this is where we get trained and conditioned from the time we're little. It's more like evaluate and add, you could do 100 things right. A kid could totally clean their whole room, and mom walks in and goes, oh, but you missed that sock, And so we're trained to kind of go into self-evaluating what's not good enough, and so seeing all the greatness that is. And so that was a great thing for me, even a reminder, as I just taught at my sex, money, relationships event this last, where was I? Like in Utah, like a week ago. Before that was when I saw you in Vegas. And it was when you remember to be more focused on appreciating and that energy and that love of, like, oh, love even of what you're feeling, then instead of the, oh, something's not right, and because we have a judgment that it's not okay to have a certain feeling or whatnot. So that kind of made me think of that. And when you were talking, it made me think about too how when we compare, like say that we are comparing each other or comparing anything, I love this phrase, comparison is the thief to all joy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right? Good one, huh? Yeah, it's like the moment we start to compare, we stop, when really, this is the funny thing to me, is how could I ever compare my journey to yours, or we do in society think, oh, this is what perfect looks like, but how could we ever assume that your perfect is my perfect? Because I'm 37.2 trillion cells of my own unique Marci Lock love and design. And you're 37.2 trillion cells of your specific design. There is no way any of us are created to be any inkling of the same type of perfect. And so just dropping that game of comparison is, I think, a huge one for me. So what are some of the other truths for you that keep you in alignment? Because you're obviously like an expert at, I don't want to say an expert at being in alignment, because obviously that's bullshit, right? Like we're all, like you just said it, we all have our things that show up and we all have our moments, but you're an expert at knowing how to realign by living this way.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I think people are drawn to you.
I think it's a discipline of what I mentioned earlier. It's a discipline of remembering who we really are. Identity, affirming identity.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's making a decision and affirming that decision, I think, daily. And when we're supporting ourselves or going through a hard time, or whether it be a good time, constantly reminding ourselves of who and what we are. So I believe that you are, this magnificent, perfect, enlightened, master, ascended self. That's who I believe that you are. I believe that you are this incredibly unlimited master God self, incarnate now, an ascended master already, that is remembering who they are.
I love it.
I believe that is what I am. I believe that is what you are.
Yeah.
And the more that I remember that, we are this, what I would call ascended master self, or enlightened, incredibly powerful, beautiful being, then all of my thoughts, all of my premises revolve around that one distinction. And through deductive reasoning, just constantly work at living in that truth and remembering who I am and remembering who you are.
Hallelujah, brother. That's so true. And what I love is that the core to everything, even though so people will see me as a nutrition fitness expert. They might see you as like the guru whisperer and the business strategist and all these things. At the core of everything, it's all about remembering the truth of who you are, meaning you're already perfect, and it's self-love. And when you're projecting out of that energy and that truth, everything else is easily created and aligned to experience what you want. Because when you know that truth, you're worthy of it. So I just love, like, that's such a perfect description of what we already are and how we already are being in this. It's almost just that journey and that path of realigning to it and remembering it.
One of my favorite questions that I like to, use myself as a game during the day. I like to make things games. It tends to lighten things up.
You're a visionary. I know that because you love crazy epic shit like I do in adventure.
Right. And one of the most fun games that helps me remember who I am and helps me remember who, you are is living in the question constantly of reminding myself and asking the one question: what would an ascended master or a spiritual master do?
Hmm.
What would a spiritual master, or what I call an ascended master or an enlightened master, do?
I'm writing that down.
And, one of the spiritual masters that I had a chance to be influenced by, I'd asked him, I go, what does it take to be this, enlightened ascended master? What does it take to be a spiritual master? And he said, practice being one every day.
Wow. So, when you say you ask yourself the question, it almost makes, because when whatever our mind focuses on, it finds, right? It looks for that. Mm-hmm. So when you ask yourself a question, and the quality of questioning life gives you the quality of life that you're going to live. But I caught myself when I was really understanding, how do I feel more joy, more happy, like aligning even to more of that belief system that, life just gets to be awesome. I'd ask myself, like, how could I be more joyful right now? Like, what would give me more joy right now? And it's just simple little things, even of like, oh, I want to, like, for me, I love kicking my ass, obviously, every single day. So it's like, ooh, how can I, like, get out into nature or get some more, like, connection to my body or whatever that is? And I love this question. That's why I wrote it down, because I'm like, if you're in a space of like, and all of a sudden you ask yourself a question to say, what would an ascended or spiritual master do? Like, whoa, all of a sudden you can realign to, like, the truth of the connection of who you really are. Is that what you mean by you saying that and you doing that, and practice being who you want to be? And it's almost like one of my business coaches was like, asked me when I hit over 6 figures a month, he's like, do you ever fly first class? And I was like, no. He's like, do you buy $500,000 shoes? And I was like, no. And and he's like, wow, there's a massive gap there. I mean, and look, I was already creating 6 figures a month. He's like, you're not living and being in the class and the relationship with money of what you want. And I was like, wow, it's true. I'm not, because I had still even things there of like, oh, I grew up on a farm and, started buying my own clothes by the time I was 6 years old and doing jobs to play sports, like, you name it. Like, there was still, the mentality of, I don't need to pay that much for certain things. And yet, when you understand that alignment to that truth, it's like, well, of course I'm worthy of everything. There's unlimited amounts of resources and money is like air. So why wouldn't I allow myself to fly first class? And then now, like, I would never want to do anything but first class, because it's awesome, right? Mm-hmm. So I love that question. That is great. I appreciate that so much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it goes back to what we talked about earlier as an affirmation of identity. It presupposes, the way we language things, to ourselves. And, with happiness or joy, we talk about, creating more of that in our lives. But what if I am the source of all joy? If I am pure joy, where I am, pure happiness, and I'm that, radiating center, so to speak, and I'm, sending it like that channel outward, to affect the planet or to affect the world, become a conduit of being it as opposed to seeking it. And it's very two different subtle distinctions in our languaging and how we consider ourselves and who we think we are and who we're pretending to be or not to be. So that question is are you being your master self today?
I'm writing these down. I like these. Hopefully everyone is taking notes. I love it. Conduit, you said conduit of being it versus seeking it. And are you being your master self? Great questions. And I totally, again, simple truth. the quality of questions you ask yourself gives you the quality of life that you live, because your mind looks for it and seeks out that solution in that. So, wow, powerful, powerful truths. These are the nuggets that I was like, Robert, give me your nuggets. We want your nuggets. So, Robert, Phil, last time, because, you know, obviously with time frame and whatnot, I would love you to let people know, what does your event look like, or maybe some of the, because it's very unique, so maybe there's people on watching that are the 6-7 figure income earners that are wanting, like, how do I align even more to myself? How do I become that master being? How do I remember that truth and take my business, my passion, my purpose, my life to a whole nother level? What are some of the unique things that you really get to share in your live events that is a whole, you know, obviously a whole transformational experience for them?
Well, the live events, you know, we start with a lot of the practical business strategies, to be frank with you first, because it's a, you know, it's a business event, you know, foremost, and people are coming in looking for ways to break through to the next level, you know, with their business and expansion, or looking at selling their business, you know, leaving a legacy as an exit strategy, things of that nature. So we start with a very concrete, strategic things based on leadership, you know, and really, you know, what the core of leadership is, you know, for their business, for leaving a legacy with their business as well, and working backwards from there. We do a lot of networking at the events with the interpersonal relationships. One of the great things about the live events is that, you know, every member in the event gets every other member's phone number and details and bio, and a chance to network with every other single member in a personal one-on-one connection. So a lot of it is about networking and connection, of developing relationships with highly ethical, integrity, purpose-driven, big-hearted entrepreneurs that are already making 6 or 7 figures, and putting a small group of them together with the purpose of changing the world.
Yeah.
You know, literally with a business paradigm of cooperative business acceleration. So that's the, you know, the first event. And then of course we go into, you know, different aspects of strategic things of business, and then we work backwards and we do some on the leadership aspect. We get into motivation, whether it be motivating ourselves or our staff or our team, you know, with my assistants and my staff that's supporting me, and vice versa with everybody's business. And then getting into, again, working backwards from there, you know, then our personal identity, you know, who are we being, you know, in our business? Are we being truly that champion to champion our clients and our patients, and bringing out their magnificent, authentic, true, beautiful self?
Love it. So you bring together the badasses to have an awesomeness, which, see, you and I are so alike. It's just like my badass breakthrough event you're coming to in Cancun, I'm assuming, because, you know, it's Cancun and it's awesomeness. You're like, Mars, planning that yet?
Tropical paradises.
I know, right? Like, it's, yeah, well, and you've got an awesome little paradise. It's in Vegas that your event's at then, right?
Yeah, our event here is going to be in Vegas in January, February. We keep the location private and secret. We go through an application process, so somebody can't pay just to go. They basically have to fill out an application at accelerationlive.com.
Awesome.
Either myself or one of my staff interviews them first, gives them the details. We then disclose what the price is. If they, you know, pass the interview process, takes off about, you know, 10 or 15 minutes. And then the location's disclosed after, you know, they've paid their, you know, purchase price at that point. Other than that, we keep it, because people will tend to want to crash our events and meet our high-end people, so we've had to keep it private.
Yeah, I agree. That's why we've got the application process for Badass Breakthrough, because you got to be operating at a certain level, and that's extremely, that's invaluable right there. Like you're saying, getting to go associate with the people who are already being and living at that level, and how to connect to create even a conscious collaboration of massive, massive change for the world, which is definitely what you're up to and what you do. So again, I'm like, I get to check my dates. I was telling you, I'm like, I'm booked out through January and February, but I'm like, what are those dates? Maybe I can work this out and align some things, because I've got my international book tour with Les Brown, and you and I talked about that, and my Goddess event and some different things. But I want to, my intention is to find out when that is and be there. So anybody that's coming, you know, most likely I'll get to be there too. So
right.
That's
accelerationlive.com. Have them go to accelerationlive.com. We'll have all the details up there, and they can see all the specifics.
Awesome. Okay, I will be going there too. Or, I'll be like, Robert, just tell me the dates and I'll make it work. Because I like to make it easy, right?
Mhm.
I can like flash you like some bank account stubs or, things for you to be like, okay, Marsh, you're good. You already know this. This is all. Well, Robert, I'm so grateful that you took the time. I'm first appreciating you. That's a different energy than just gratitude, but appreciating you because for those of you that have seen, obviously, Robert's business side, he's amazing, but getting to know him on a personal note, he is truly such an amazing individual to be around. Hence, you hear from the get-go this interview, him saying, I'm just a guy. Like, he's super humble, so in his just present. Like, I love how present you always are and how just tapped in you always are. I could go back to giving references in Vegas, even like several times, like feeding me when I had no food in the events, and you're like, Mars, I felt like you needed food. I'm like, oh, yes. You're just so present and such a great, amazing person to be around. So I know that anyone that interacts with you, from the gurus that you work with to people coming to your events, are going to experience your genius. And it is truly, truly an honor to watch you shift and align people to create a bigger message game and just to even be around you and to know you. So thanks for taking the time to be on today and for sharing with all of us. And I know I'll get to see you soon. Do you have any last words that you want to share with everybody on the show?
Thank you for having me, and thank you for being here. And then hopefully we've been able to give you some value with some of these nuggets that we've shared with you today. And definitely, if you get a chance to, work with Marci, talk about somebody who's a pretty incredible and very, very rare planetary leader, as I call her, sharing her message around the globe. I firmly believe, as I think many people do, that she's definitely the Joan of Arc of today.
You know the back end story to that. That was sly. That was sly. True. There's true. There's
Yeah.
a Joan of Arc
So
fire.
I think that people should definitely get a chance to work with you live as soon as they possibly can and glean your wisdom.
Well, if I come to your event, we could do this. We do a special bonus where people get up early and I will kick their ass. I'll bring bands. That's how I roll. So
Perfect.
Marci Lock ass kickings always tend to come with wherever I go just because I get my
Absolutely.
so awesome. Okay, well, you guys make sure you go to accelerationlive.com to be able to find out about that event. Or Robert, give them your website again for those people that maybe that's not their market, but that you've
It's
got all that content.
www.robertvitelli.com, ROBERT, V like victory, ITELLI.com. I've got some free courses that people can get, right there on the website right now, and we're going to continue to add some more free courses for them.
Awesome. And one last tidbit is we've been talking about doing a Breakthrough to Badass event with you, doing some epic, crazy, cool shit too, from riding the motorcycles and doing the race cars and all, and like, what do you call that jet thingy? Your jet.
Flyboard and jetpacks.
Yes, in the water. Like, and you've got pictures of that. I'm so excited. Yeah, fun stuff. Okay, cool. So again, you guys, if you are looking to break through your bullshit, get into living an awesome, fantastical life, obviously be influential as Robert, and just even go down your journey, you can go to mindbody90.com to get the free video series. You can download the app where you can listen to the show over and over again and write down these nuggets, just like I took little notes today listening to Robert. And that's at marcilockapp.com or on iTunes or Google Play. You can find out about the Badass Adventure series, which Robert's going to be doing some fun stuff with us, from being there to also doing the Breakthrough to Badass, or the Goddess Event Revolution as well, so that you can totally align to live in your awesome truth. That's all we really care about, right, Robert?
That's right.
Awesomeness. So you guys have a wonderful, awesome day. You know how I always roll. Remember that the power of choice is yours, so choose your best life and go lock it down.